Hello everybody, welcome back. Let's have a look at Bitcoin then, shall we? And of course we're going to look at Matic, the most important topic of choice for this channel usually. So first of all, we'll just have a brief look at XRP, jeez man, have a look at Bitcoin. So just ever so briefly, I'm going to tell you now that I'm very bullish on Bitcoin over these next coming weeks, so bearing that in mind, weeks, okay? I could be anticipating a small pullback, not a dump, but a pullback with the price here, but generally speaking I think everything's set up now to do something very big. So just very briefly, I'll go over the reasons why, and then we'll move on to Matic and what we think about that. So first of all, we have in the bears' favour, but also of good interest to the bulls, this descending trend all the way back from 2017, the parabolic top. We've been stuck under there and rejected from there on 2 occasions, and likely, you know, if we were to be coming up to there on the first pass, maybe find a rejection from it. But we're in a upwards trending level of support here that's being held after we broke out of this descending trend. Trends all over the place, by the way. This descending trend, we broke out of there and went bullish, and since then this level of support has kicked in, and we came down to test it here and here, and it's actually looking quite strong to me, and it's upwards trending, so it's gaining about $65 a day in value. So you can't go wrong with that kind of a support. So what I'm going to say to you now is that we could likely come down to test this level of support again, and I'd probably say we're very likely to do that. This descending resistance and this descending support will be tested and rejected from and supported from, bringing us into this tight little area where it will make one decision whether it's up or down. Now I would probably say at the moment, and this is just going off the indicators at the moment, and I would probably say that we're primed to make the move to the up, and when that move is made to the up, it'll be pretty strong, and we're talking maybe $1,000, $1,500, maybe more, maybe crazy more, you know, maybe even, you know, taking out our previous high style move. You know, that's like 14,000, maybe even higher, 16,000, maybe even 20,000, who knows. Then obviously it will break down after that. But this is where I'm going with that. So this is the daily chart, by the way, so it's looking quite good. We've got our golden cross where we've pulled down to it already, which is fine. We've bounced up from it, and again we're making our way into this upwards support and resistance, meeting in the middle. Some point between now and the beginning of July, this move should have and probably will have been made, and it will be a big move, because if I remember rightly, it was around about June or July when this took place. Yeah, so almost a year ago that we broke out and hit that all-time high there. Well, not an all-time high, but the high of last year. We're looking to do something similar to that, I think, after this move. Now, I could be wrong. We'd have to see how we're rejected and how we're supported when we first come up to test these resistances and supports. RSI and money flow looks pretty good to me. Don't see a problem with any of those. They all look more than capable of sustaining price action to the up, and the MACD looks like it wants to cross over the next few days to prove to us that it's definitely ready to be bullish. So Bitcoin is the one to watch for me currently, but Matic, I always like to watch Matic too. So we're looking at Matic here on a daily chart, but for me the 4-hourly kind of says it a little better, but we'll flick between the two of them. Okay, so just a bit of a recap on Matic. Okay, so we like this coin on this channel and on my Telegram chat especially, because we got in at the bottom and out at the top on the last run, so we made pretty much a 4x, most of us. And for those who say TA doesn't work, I mean, it does work, but it doesn't always work. Obviously it's a guide, but with Matic, as crazy as the chart looks and as volatile and messy as it looks, there are certain things to look out for, alright? Because it's so volatile, you don't want to enter it unless there's a decent risk to reward ratio, and at the moment there is a little too much risk to the reward, because what I'm telling you here is currently we're being supported around about 2 cent. 2 cent historically has been a support and a resistance for us. It's always a milestone, alright? For a long time we didn't think we were going to break down beneath 2 cent, but we did, and we were stuck beneath it for quite a while until we broke out from it. Around about 1 cent to 1.2 cent is usually the launching pad for Matic. You want to be buying it around that level if you ever get the opportunity to. So what I'm looking at now is I'm looking at price action reaching around about 2.3 cent, which if we were to measure that from where we are right now, we're talking about just under a 6% move. Now 6% isn't a bad move at all. 6% it's nice, you know, it's okay, but it's also not worth the risk when you consider that if we break down beneath 2 cent, we could be coming down as much as 1 cent over time. You don't want to be stuck in a trade or holding a token that devalues by basically 100%. So I'm not into buying it at this level. What I would, though, I would perhaps maybe on its next pass look at buying it up at 2 cent just to see if it does bounce. Now, when we're talking about Bitcoin going bullish, I would probably say that Matic's not going to be taken with it. Matic is decoupled from Bitcoin largely, unless, of course, there's giant pullbacks. Matic is tied into Bitcoin's price action in the worst way possible, which is if Bitcoin pumps, Matic doesn't really do a great deal. If Bitcoin dumps, Matic often will dump with it and amplify that dump, maybe by 2 or even 3 times. So, very risky, and are we in the right? Given what I've just said about Bitcoin, are we really looking to want to trade Matic right this second? Probably not. Now, I know there's all these fundamental reasons people trade things. I know there's the mainnet release, and there's the trading competition, and there's staking, and all these sort of things that fundamentally will likely or should likely cause for the price to go up. But the unfortunate thing about Matic is that since its appearance on Binance, and in all fairness, I don't know even how this happened, but it did. Since this happened, it's created this vibe around Matic, and the price, whatever it does, especially since margin trading has been available for it, it dumps. Okay, so it will pump and it will dump. It makes it extremely volatile, way more than most, carries enormous risk. There is a method to it, and the method generally should work, but it would require you getting in at a really decent level rather than just trading it willy-nilly. I wouldn't want to trade it at this level that we're at now. I would take a shot if we were to come down to 2 cent again. Maybe I'd take a shot depending on the nature of the rest of the market, especially with Bitcoin and things. But if 2 cent does break, then we're looking at some of these lower levels such as 1.9, more really looking at around about 1.7 cent. And that could spark a downtrend for it. And if Bitcoin pumps, it's going to be sucking the sats out of Matic, which will trigger all kinds of bots to sell it, short it, because the sats are being drained out of it. Matic won't be pumping. It's basically losing its value by sats, which will kick in for its tether. So it's not a good time to be buying it actually at this moment in time. Unfortunately, for the blokes who work at Matic, it doesn't really matter what your technology does anymore. Unlike a chart like Harmony One, they're both doing the same kind of thing. The charts look extremely different. Harmony One started all the way up at the top and just has gone all the way down, but if you look at it realistically, if you zoom in a little bit closer, it looks a lot more progressive than the Matic. However, if you look at its time when it came onto the market, you'd be pretty sore if you bought it back there, whereas if you've bought Matic at the top start of this market here, you'd still actually be very happy. So it's like a game of poker where with this, and there's very little that the Matic network is going to be able to do to change the progression of this chart, unless of course something like Coinbase came into play and said, "Well, you can buy and sell for fiat currency." That'd be a big deal for it, but I'm a little hesitant to say that that's likely to happen when the chart looks like this, because Coinbase, they're quite prestigious. They've got their integrity, and I don't know if they'd want to be associated with such a pump and dump token, really. And it's really unfortunate that this has happened, and I'd probably say this is partly Binance's fault, really. This, I can't really explain this, but this dump definitely is because of the ability to short it on Binance, and it's a small asset, so it doesn't take a great deal of weight to move a market. And the interesting thing about the the trading competition at the moment is that you can see this size, the sheer volume of some of these traders trading Matic. We're talking like a billion Matic tokens traded by some of these guys just in the last week, and they're the top traders, obviously. But I mean, if you think about some of that weight, that would move a chart like this, which doesn't trade with that much volume. Anyway, let's go back onto what's going on with the chart. So, like I say, there is a method to it. You can get in and out. We got in back here, we got out back there. We recently got in around this level here, and we got out at this level here because the supports and resistances kick in, and the resistance is always going to be 2.7 cent. Above 2.7 cent, we could see moves like this. Below it, we're going to be bumping our heads between 1.2 cent and 2.7 cent. That is the trading range, and it's a very slow trading range for Matic. So at the moment we're in the middle of that range, and our next resistance is 2.3 cent. Breaking above 2.3 cent, we make ourselves to 2.5 cent would be our next. Between 2.5 and 2.7, that would be. We could smash through 2.5 without problem, but 2.7 is the strongest resistance level until we get to this one here, which is 3.4, which basically I thought that when we were going to break down from it, this was going to be my buyback opportunity. I would have bought back at this level if I had been awake. I obviously would see if there was a bounce going on, but I remember selling up here thinking to myself, 3.4, that would be where I'd expect a bounce. Instead of a bounce, what we got is we got a slight support, but then when we broke down from that, it was just unbelievable. Now if we break down again, and like I say, we're looking at this on the daily chart, if we do break down again, then yeah, we're talking areas like 1.7 cent. If we go to the 4 hourly, what do we see? Is there anything bullish about this? So in all fairness, when we're looking at these indicators here, they are suggesting that we could make a run up to 2.3, but that's likely all it would be. But it could move beyond that, but it might not, because the daily looks so bad, and Bitcoin's looking like it wants to take all the sats away, and as I explained, in doing that, it would suffer, probably would suffer on its tether, because unlike most other alts, it won't pump with Bitcoin, generally doesn't pump with Bitcoin. So in its favour, in a very short term time frame, we are having bullish divergence, even though we're in bearish territory on the MACD. That's okay. RSI hit a near low, but not oversold at all, moving our way comfortably towards the middle, ready to prime. Now the money flow index, it didn't hit a critical level, but it did hit a relative low, broke outside of the box. It wasn't in a buy area, but it was in an area to say, yes, this might be an okay, it could come down further, but this might be an area to buy it at. Now we obviously that indicator was correct if you would have got in there, because since there we have gained 13%, and a potential, what would be a potential 20%, am I right in saying that, to 2.3? No, to a potential 17.5%, I'd say, percent, we would be looking to gain. So that would be an accurate read. If we break down again from here, I would like to see this break all the way down to completely massively oversold territory, all the way down to 10 on the money flow index, and I would probably buy it on the 4 hourly chart. So there's opportunity here, and I would look to make those purchases because there would be significant bounces for Matic, and Matic does like to make those bounces. If we go to the daily chart, I can show you here. If you, like I say, I didn't take opportunity with this because this happened when I was in bed, but I mean, as this dump took place, we had a nice solid wick that gave us about an 80% over time Yeah, 80% from that wick to the next high, which again was getting close to the 2 cent mark. So you can see 2 cent at that point and getting close to 2 cent. Obviously front run a little bit, close to 2 cent would have been the resistance at that point. So that it's turned from support, which we're currently on now, to resistance. Breaking underneath 2 cent is a serious deal, because we broke down beneath it and we stayed underneath 2 cent for all this time since we broke down until just recently when we broke above it. So we stayed under there for 54 days. You know, that's quite a while there that we broke underneath it, and that was at that level. And then we broke down massively here with everything broke down from that level, and we stayed beneath 2 cent until, actually it didn't take too long, I suppose, on this occasion. There, but then when you see the 2 cent mark get reached, that's when we start to make big moves. So above 2 cent is still okay, still bullish. Below 2 cent, you could be stuck under there for months. You could be stuck under there for a long time. Is it worth the risk to reward ratio at the moment? I'd probably say no. What I would like to see is that, given the fact that 2 cent is such a historical level of support and resistance, wait to see how we react if and when we touch 2 cent again. If we touch it and a wick goes beneath it and there's a strong bounce bringing us to close on a daily above it, or even on a 4 hourly above the 2 cent, it could be okay to go. Now again, I'm not a financial advisor, this isn't financial advice. I do see this, like I say, on the 4 hourly, I do see it making its run up to 2.3 cents, and maybe it will overstretch and go to 2.5. Personally, I'm not in it. Anyway, I'll leave that with you, and again, I just want to stress this is a highly volatile token. Trade at your own risk, and I'm not a financial advisor, this isn't financial advice. But join my Telegram if you want to talk more about Matic, and if you're trading it and what ideas you've got. And yeah, I hope you have a nice evening. Thanks for watching. Take it easy.